This video, I will address the key points of my videos. I will go over hieroglyphs, the wordplay there, the A, and why it seems to be a vulture. And I couldn't find the one where it showed it was either a hawk or a bull. The A basically represents any of the cult animals being placed above the rest of them, but in its true form, it is the hawk or the bull. It can also be seen as the leopard, but this is a little bit more confusing. It's simply that the leopard is the most logical animal chosen for God, and its son in this world can be seen as the bull, the black, and the yellow being more representative of the hawk. All right, and that is why on the screen I started off with the image of the A. That bird is actually a vulture, and this is the Nekhbet, right? Alphabet Nekhbet. Nekhbet is a female vulture deity that wasn't that far from Nekhin. But of course, the true A isn't the vulture. You can imagine businessmen would love for you to see it that way, and so on and so forth. Okay. So the E divided Pharaoh's power when they decided that no one's going to be able to take over the way that Nekhin did. They don't have the heart, they don't have the ability, they don't have the mind, body, soul, the mental prowess. Their spirit animal is inferior. So they decided, let's team up together and divide the Pharaoh's power. And a lot of these pharaohs were given multiple names, partially as a result of that, as a consequence of that. So let's look over. Let's go over some of my key points over the years. One of my key points is that psyops exist. It's stupid to have to prove something that they have written many books about. You know, I've cited the 2009 Army Unconventional Warfare Manual, Psychological Operation Manual, that they printed for public viewing for whatever reason. Okay, Department of the Army. And that, yes, people are targeted, and there's groups that target them, groups with vested interest, and basically the system is like it's like a mafia commission, a racket, where various factions work together. They don't always hold hands and sing kumbaya. Sometimes they kill individual members, and they have to go back to the table and decide how to make it so that business continues relatively smoothly. So I have 15 witnesses to the PSYOP against me, and that this proves definitively that it is insane to say that this is something in my head. And it's sad that I have to make that a key point, and there are idiots who would argue about that. These people, to be clear, I have interviews with dozens of people. The witnesses are specifically witnessing different aspects of the psychological operation against me and are testifying on record, you know, that they have witnessed this. Second point, the top martial artist challenge. Because I emerge, the Igbo leader emerges, the top martial artist emerges. This connects the African foundation of Egypt to the martial arts structure. The first depiction of martial arts in Egypt was actually in Nekhin, from my understanding, and not in Beni Hassan. Beni Hassan is just showing you an organized system, whereas Nekhin is showing you some kind of hand-to-hand combat. So if you look at combat in terms of evidence of a martial arts system in a religious context, in an organized religious system like a cult center, you know, certainly there must be ones before Nekhin as well, but certainly one way or another, it screams that Africa is the source of martial arts. Okay, so my top martial arts challenge started off with $250, I believe. Eventually, I brought it up to $100,000 at one point, but for the most part, it was $3,000 or $4,000. I offered $20 to begin with, just to show, and eventually it got up to $50. So that was 4 years. What I refer to as my 4-year, $4,000 top martial arts challenge, December 20th, 2013 to December 20th, 2017. I was fumed and drugged and crippled and blinded before I decided to no longer extend my challenge. Okay. And a lot of times I would warn them, you know, I'm going to end it at 2 years. I'm going to end it at 3 years. And I gave them, you know, every reason to accept. Okay. So when you couple that and everything together, all my videos are all over the internet. They reference my top martial arts challenge. I went out of my way to comment on every martial arts video I could find to get my challenge out. Representatives from many martial artist organizations and schools made themselves known, and they basically, one way or another, conceded my point, but refused to concede it publicly. Okay, the A versus the E. The A as the masculine spirit, Ra versus Re. The E as the feminine, gender-neutral, unwilling to accept the martial arts significant. The E specifically can be seen as a gender-neutral energy, not necessarily someone who sees them as gay, but someone acting immature. E for evil, female, right? You see the word male in female, okay? Someone refusing to admit that there's a divine order that puts the top martial artist as the ideal man and that they need to publicly follow suit. So no matter how much they see it my way, if they don't publicly follow suit, they're in the E energy. Okay, when the line is drawn in the sand and you're standing with the E army, you're with the E army. Whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, whether you go to a lukewarm Christian church that doesn't even touch on martial arts, or whether you're trying to break down the church, even if you're a Muslim who practices martial arts is in a terrorist organization. Your inability to see past the Quran and to acknowledge Pharaoh as the religious leader makes you part of the E energy. You're just on the more masculine end of it, okay? The more brave end, willing to kill yourself, blow yourself up, or whatever. I don't agree with it because it's for the wrong spirit. Do I agree with martyring? Absolutely. Fighting to the death? Absolutely. Does it come to a time to kill yourself rather than to be caught and tortured and so they can try to make you an E? Absolutely. Do I agree with terrorism in its form, in its common form? No. Okay, the moral of the stories, religions, okay? You need to understand that the moral is important. Don't take the moral relativist view and try to accommodate society. Okay? So the natural martial arts patriarchal structure and structures is where these morals come from. And religions are reactions to that, trying to accommodate certain groups of people, usually the trade route bitches that are giving the orders. Okay, so, and we see ample evidence of this in the history of religions. So the true nature of the war on terror. Okay, God terrorizes sinners in the Bible. To say that God is going to punish you for being socially normative in America is a form of terror. Most people don't put that part together. You don't have to hurt, you don't have to kill anybody to terrorize them, threatening them, right? A terrorist threat in legal terms, right, is threatening to do harm to somebody. Threatening harm on them in one form or another. There's such a thin line between you threatening somebody on behalf of God and you doing it yourself, and the various applications and forms it takes place, that basically the Bible and the Quran and the Old Testament can be seen, and pretty much all mainstream religions, non-New Age, world religion garbage, can be seen, as a terrorist book, a manual for how to terrorize someone into submission in a way to get them to do something that they haven't been brainwashed and conditioned to do, so they reject it. So basically, if you don't understand what I'm saying, I have a lot to go over. These books contradict the social conditioning of the masses, who then reject these ideas and say, I'm a socially normative bitch. I like my immoral lifestyle. I like to be able to abuse people in this particular manner. I don't want you to tell me God is going to punish me for it, or to tell my kids and to scare them, when I'm trying to teach them to be a wolf, a viper, a jackal, a vulture, a silly-faced hippo, etc. All right, moving on. The logical, unmistakable conclusion is that there is a great conspiracy, and people are fucking insane if they don't see that. I mean, there is so much evidence of a great conspiracy. Globalism by itself screams conspiracy. Global churches, right? The church never really fought for human rights in its pure form. They fought for control over the minds of men on the global stage. All right, moving on. Mental health is oppressive. It supports oppressors and purposely misdiagnoses people, being blatantly dishonest to control people on behalf of the elite and to stifle dissent. Okay, they talk about maturity. They never settled the nature versus nurture debate. There are disorders that relate to, I was looking up before this, but because I had bad service on my phone, I wasn't able to find this disorder. There's a disorder that has something to do with being anti-authority. If you resist authority, that you have a mental illness, and it's targeted at kids, but since they talk about developmental, psychosocial development and people being you're a man child, therefore that disorder that fits a kid, if you've labeled somebody a man child, can now be superimposed on them. Ionia State Hospital, Martha Mitchell effect proves my point. I went over Drape Dillmany. Okay, so Erik Erikson, psychosocial disorders, and other theories of human development contradict each other. Why? Because these are political perspectives. Okay, they talk about the functional, sociological, the feminist, and so on. Political perspectives with biased science and biased, fraudulent scientific studies on behalf of the establishment. They control science, especially big pharma. Okay, they contain partial truths and claims of people playing stupid for social, political, and financial gain for them and their allies. This makes it more repugnant in politics, generally speaking, in that manner, because these people are given the power by the state to force you to think a certain way. Whereas politics are trying to trick you and drug you and lie at you, drug you subtly with the chemicals in the food and so on. These people are giving you powerful drugs that are they're unavoidable. You're not going to miss that you're being drugged, okay? To force you to think one of the controlled ways which are accepted by the establishment because ding, 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 they work in the favor of a bunch of pedophiles and sex cult bitches. Okay, so these are trade route scum and trade route traitors. Wordplay. The lexicon, etymology, linguistics, morphology, and so on. Okay, this is a fact of life. This is not something that is a conspiracy theory. Yes, there is wordplay. Yes, it occurs more often than you think. And moving on. And that has to do with the vowel, the vowel to L, the gospel, go spell, good news, right? Good spelling, magic spell. Yes, it's part of the psychological construct. It's a magic trick. Magic in its pure form, as far as I can tell, doesn't exist. Psychology, drugging, science and technology, mind control techniques, hypnosis, these things exist. Women rolling with it, controlling dating, and concerning dating. So when it comes to this gynocratic society, who's above it and why? People in cults that tell women what to do and use women as puppets are above it. They're like, you're a man. This is a worldly society with the Statue of Liberty. Okay, women have their pussy power. You have to court her. You have to win her over. She can have any man she wants. She can have, you go on any dating site, you'll see that women have full inboxes. Men don't have that. Okay, they have much more power than in social life than men do. Okay, the only people above them are elitists that coerce them to do their bidding and control the groups that they belong to. Okay? So women are doing their bidding. They're screwing who they want them to screw. They're being told directly, quite often they're being told directly who to screw, and subtly on other occasions. Okay, moving on. So the root causes of criminality and bad behavior are all attached to the system. They studied human behavior for generations. They know how to manipulate people, and it doesn't take a genius to see that the determinant in criminality is actually the system itself, and people being made unfocused, drunk and high and on drugs and given substances that cause disorderly behavior and doesn't allow them to focus and think effectively and logically and efficiently. And that therefore makes them vulnerable to the tactics and techniques and the groups and the social controllers in the system who throw them off and sabotage them and persecute them so the repressor can get ahead. Oppress. O is the, occult, right? O is the reproductive cycle. Moving on. The ideal man, mind, body, soul, spirit, made more ideal by sacrificing these things and endangering the soul, sacrificing the mind and body and endangering their soul and their spirit for God's plan to help man. So they're risking their soul to help you, but they're not going to lose it because they're the ideal man, but they're being tempted and so on. Anyway, spiritual patriarchy. That orders man on behalf. Okay, we need a spiritual patriarchy that orders man on behalf of God and from the Pharaoh's family. Certain rights are maintained, sacred rights to the application of sacred morality by Pharaoh. Haru, Eye of Ra, Air A, air being the atmosphere, spirit A, control, right? Can roll, can't roll. Okay? Why? It can roll with God's plan. God's plan is for you. The children should be rewarded for the father. If the father is Pharaoh, the child should be Pharaoh, but other people have a chance to marry into the family. So hieroglyph, I'm out of time. Well, that's it. Last video.